Alright guys, I got our PoE top 10 hardcore causes of death here. I'm going to go from most common, like things that kill noobs, all the way down to things that kill even the pros, like people that go all the way and still die in the end. I'm going to try to cover ways to prevent these things as we go along. So feel free to stick along with me for as long as you feel like. Number one is low defensive stats HP. Now, if you're a new player and you don't really know how Path of Exile works, or you've played on softcore, or whatever, you're probably going into your passive menu and you're allocating offensive stats. You're allocating minion damage, your spell damage, your attack speed, all that stuff. And yeah, you might get a little bit of defensive stuff along the way, just getting there. But on hardcore, that's not enough. In fact, on the vast majority of my hardcore characters, I play about 90 to 95% defensive stats. And that's because I play character builds that use defensive stats as their main form of offense or damage. For example, if I have a Cyclone build, I use the Perseverance belt for some of those, which gives you more damage the more armor and evasion you have. And it can be quite a lot. It can be like 200% more damage or more. Like, it's a beefy amount. So, like, even if I'm playing, like, this is a SRS Necromancer, I'm even going down here and grabbing combat stamina. Where's my other... I got some ones that I like to take on a lot of characters, but that's probably the biggest killer of people that are new to hardcore. It's just not allocating enough defensive stats. You want to take as many health nodes as you can, and that'll just, that's what keeps you alive. So let's get into number 2, which is low elemental resistances. Now you'll see here I have over 100 in everything. My maxes are actually, I would normally have a little bit more on most characters by now, especially melee characters, but as a minion build, I'm not too worried about that. Now mine are actually pretty low for endgame stuff, so I would not run this character in T16s right now, because if I get hit by something that reduces my resistances like 10 or the elemental one, I always struggle with the name on that one. It's exposure, because the only resistance to exposure is from the elemental mastery, unless you get it on gears to reduce the effective exposure. So that's a rough one. If you don't have that elemental mastery, you want your resistances to be, I believe, around 130-140% over cap. And that should prevent you from getting randomly one-tapped in T16s by enemies that might have exposure. That's also assuming you have the protection mastery of your elemental resistances cannot be lowered by curses, because curses will also tank your resistances by quite a bit. So that's a big one. And while we're here on this exact screen, I'm going to get into number 3, which is Corrupted Blood. Now, Corrupted Blood is poison but worse, or not poison, bleeding but worse. It's Corrupted Blood is like if you're bleeding and running without having to run. Like, it can tank your health pretty quick. When I was new to hardcore, I got hit with a Corrupted Blood death in Act 6 or 7. I forget which one. It was fairly early on after the first resistance lower. So be aware of that Corrupted Blood. I believe it's Act 7 that it can hit you. But you might also get it as a random modifier in Act 6. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I usually try to get this as my second protection mastery, and it's totally worth it. Usually I rush the protection masteries fairly early on, just in my hardcore builds. You don't really, the the curses one you don't really need necessarily that early because there's very few enemies that do it, and in the areas that they do it, there's not a lot of spells going on, so it's not that bad, especially if you have resistances on your armor. But if you're just league starting, then it can definitely kill you a lot easier. The next one is number 4 is low regen. Now, low regen can be mitigated by a really quick potion button. Something that you kind of build as a hardcore player is hitting your potion button as quickly as possible as soon as you see your health bubble start to go down. Just getting really fast on that potion button. But that's not always something you can do. Like if you're fighting a boss that you know has deadly dots on the ground, you can like be ready for it. But if you're not as used to it yet, or you suddenly get hit by something you're not immune to, like poison or corrupted blood or something, and you don't notice it right away, it can kill you pretty quick. If you have a whole group of blue mobs and each blue mob has applied corrupted blood, or each blue mob has applied poison and your chaos resistances aren't up, it can tank you pretty quick. Especially after Act 5 if you don't have your chaos resistance up, which is another thing that kills a lot of players. I would kind of lump this in with low elemental resistances, because after Act 5 you have negative 30 chaos res, and most people won't have that built at all. What I personally do, which isn't necessarily necessary, but what I personally do is I go in and I get some of these amethyst rings. They drop in Reliquary, so you can go to my regular map. I'm having a brain right here. You can go to the Act 5 spot, Reliquary. They're level 44 there, and they can drop up to level 46 if you kill rares. But you can get amethyst rings there pretty with sometimes you get them early, sometimes it takes you a couple of runs. I think one season I had to do like 8 to 10 runs of Reliquary before I got an amethyst ring. Sometimes it's rough, but if you don't get that and you have negative 30 chaos res going into Act 6, you can die fairly easily from just a random group of blue mobs. Like, it's almost guaranteed if they do either physical to chaos or something like that, and they get hits off on you, whether they're ranged or whatever, you know, that's an easy death. So you either have to really be paying attention or make sure you get that chaos res up. And another way to do that is this tree node right here. You can hit this node up here with all these chaos reses fairly easily from Witch. You can hit it from Marauder. Down here even. I even go up there on Duelist, because when I do Duelist, I come up here anyway for my staff masteries. And then you know, I go through all these. These are all, you know, health and physical damage and attack speed stuff, which is all good for Cyclone Duelist. And then I just come up here for some chaos res. And that, you know, can free up another ring slot. So I don't have to use 2 amethyst ring slots, but I do actually often use 2 amethyst ring slots. So that's another huge killer of people that are new to hardcore, is not paying attention to that chaos res. So map mods. Let's get into some map mods. I should probably be able to find some here in the guild bank. Get some bad ones here just to show you, for example. So in Feeble, isn't too bad. That just reduces your damage. It's the other one. It's Weaken, I think. There might be a Weaken mod. Minus max reses. That's a huge killer. If you're at 80% res, which you should be doing on red maps at like minimum. If you're at 80% res and your max res are reduced by 11%, you're taking 50% more damage. That's a huge damage increase for the mobs. Players have less armor is another huge one. Players have reduced chance to block, is obviously deadly if you're in a block build. you really need to pay attention to these, like hardcore. Um, if you're if any of these are specific, fires additional projectiles. Um, for attacks that those projectiles aren't like going off in random directions, like ones that home in on you, that's triple damage. They're literally doing triple damage to you. Um, and if those mobs spawn with projectiles fork, and you have minions, you're just dead. There's no amount of mitigation you could possibly do to cancel that out on like a T16 map or something, because they're doing triple damage to you, plus they're hitting your minions, and then they're forking back to you, and they're hitting you again. Like, it's insane. It's instant death, especially for something like if they have arc, because I think arc is a projectile. There's some spells that are like instant, that they have no travel time, and like literally you'll run around a corner and you'll just be dead, because they'll hit you, they'll hit your minions, they'll hit back to you, all in a snap of a finger, and there's nothing you can do about it. So I always avoid additional projectiles, no matter what build I'm playing. What else do I have? Additional chain too, because monsters can spawn with fires additional projectiles. I believe they can, but they can't do both, because I think they're both the same type of modifier. So the monsters themselves can never spawn with both projectiles and chain, but if you have one on the map, you can have the other on the monster. So be careful of that. If you have no regen on a map, that one can be really bad, especially if you're running a self-harm build like RF, Righteous Fire. I'm sorry, not everybody here knows all the terms. But if you're running, something, always pay attention to these mountains. That's the best advice I can give. If it's something that makes your build not work, don't try it. Not on hardcore. Be a weenie like me. Live. Choose life. Alright, let's go to number 6. Low res overcap. I kind of talked about this already with your reses being at 140%. Now those can go down to 120% if you have the elemental mastery. But the 140% is including not being reduced by curses, because you can always be hit by a curse and be affected by I always forget the name of it, and be hit by exposure at the same time, and they will stack 100%. So definitely try to do that. Certain monster types. So I don't think know if there are any here. But if you have one that's got monsters are undead, or monsters are, abominations, those aren't bad. This one, you see, nobody's playing this because its area is inhabited by humanoids. This map's been in here since League start, and League's half over. So, yeah, humanoids are deadly. And the other one that I will avoid every time is goatmen. Goatmen, for some reason, they cast the wizards or whatever, they cast a fireball. And for some bizarre reason, the fireballs do a bunch of damage. Even if you have 80% fire res, 90% fire res, they'll still hit you for thousands of damage. So, like, on my tankiest characters, I can take maybe 2 of those fireballs from a blue mob, and I'll be fine. But like 3 or more, and I'll be dead. They do so much damage. So the fireballs move slow. So if you run a circle around them, you can be fine. Or if you're at a long range and you have a long range character, maybe you're playing arc or something. I don't know. You could shoot an arc and move slightly to the side, and you'll be fine. But just the risk of going down a bridge one time. This is a true story. I was running down a bridge on a T16 map. There was a group of goatmen on the other side. They all shot fireballs. I turned around and ran down the other side of the bridge I think I still got hit by 1 or 2 of them. Lost more than half my health. And I was just like, nope, I left the map. I didn't even attempt to finish that map. I was just like, not doing it. So yeah, Goatman, very deadly. Number 8. I've lost a character to this personally recently this league. Chess, and I'll explain to you what happened, but corpse explosion. You know, you hear all those things. As soon as you start seeing those bright flashes, it's kind of like it sucks in energy and then it explodes and pops. You look at the monster, you'll see it explodes nearby corpses. That's deadly. Somebody in our guild died from a chest that had explodes nearby corpses, because the damage is based on the corpse's hit points. So every time I open a chest, I flame dash away, or do whatever you do. Do your frost blink or your flame dash or your leap slam. Do whatever you do. Just get away from that chest when you open it, because if it's got explodes corpses, and there was a mob with millions of health that died near there, you're gonna die. And this is on a character with I had almost 30 stacks of fort. I had 90% physical damage reduction from armor. I had all these things. I had over 80% fire res. I think it was like 81, 82. Because I think exploding corpses are fire damage, not physical. But what happened to me was I was fighting a chest burster, and I knew that there were no rare mobs around me, so I was just like, I'll just kill this chest burster real quick. So I do my thing, I cyclone around him, I kill him. Well, his little worm comes out of his chest, and he's got the exact same mods that the big guy had. So he immediately explodes the chest bursters, which have obscene amounts of health to start with, stacked on top of the fact that it was a T16 map. I died instantly. It probably did over 1 million damage to me before modifiers. So like, even at that point, even with 5k health and 90%, 80 to 90% damage reduction and all the fort, I was just instantly dead. It would have killed anybody. So yeah, corpse explosion, up on that list. It's usually not a big deal on yellow or lower maps. Corpse explosion, they don't have enough health to hurt you if you're built tanky enough. So it can make you feel overconfident. But yeah, the big one. Number 9 on the list is slam crits. This is specifically for bosses mostly. Bosses that have big slams. Now, if you don't have crit reduction, a slam that would normally only take you halfway down can kill you all of a sudden. You don't know. So here's a spot example. I take this when I'm playing anybody that's using a chain armor that's got reduced extra damage. I actually might also take this if I'm playing either armor evasion or straight armor, because right up here you can stick in, I think I have one in my bank here. Yeah, you can stick in one of these like nice little jewels right here that changes the energy shield to apply additional armor, and that will basically allow you to take this free crit damage reduction right there. There's also one in the armor mastery to take reduced extra damage from critical hits, and there's another one, I think, I can't remember where it is. There's another one around somewhere in this general area that's another crit reduction, I believe. Don't quote me on that, because I think there's 3 of them. But yeah, if a boss slam crits you, that's rough. You got to be uber tanky to take that. And a lot of times, if it's a strong enough boss, there's just no tanking it, unless you have that crit reduction. So pay attention to that. And then, of course, number 10 is going to be pinnacle bosses. I know that seems like an obvious one. Like, why are you even talking about that? Well, there are ways to prepare and mitigate for bosses. So if you're preparing to fight for a pinnacle boss, what I would recommend on hardcore is don't just run in with your mapping gear. Build gear specifically for that boss. You know, it's okay to pick up a shield specifically to mitigate fire damage if you're going to fight Phoenix, or you know, to do other things. Like it's okay to have gear that you build up to not die on certain bosses, especially on hardcore, man. Like you spend a week building a character or more sometimes. Like you want to make sure they don't die. So that's the best advice I can give is just have other gear. It's, you know, like I get it if you really want to fight a boss, but hardcore is not the mode to just run in willy-nilly unless you really don't care about that character, which to be fair I've done. But that's it. Those are my, well, I mean, I guess on that you could also add research the bosses beforehand so that you know what kind of gear to build. But other than that, all you can do is practice, like, you know, trying to dodge um, uh, bullet hell attacks, or you know, stuff like that. It's just takes practice. So that's my top 10 list for causes of death in hardcore. I hope you learned something. And with that, I'll catch you guys next time.